This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good morning, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How are we doing today on a Thursday? Happy Rose Bowl day. Happy New Year's Day. It's the first day of 2026, and I hope you and yours are ready for a big, big year right here on the Joe Gaither Show. We're live on the Bama Central YouTube channel, on the Bama Central Facebook page. You're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify. We appreciate everybody who subscribed, rated, and reviewed the show right there. You can find the show right here in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios. Find him off McFarland Boulevard. Call Derek for all of your insurance needs at 205-758-3391. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. And we're also proudly presented by Purple Turtle Roofing. You can find Purple Turtle Roofing. Call them at 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection today. But today it's all about the Rose Bowl. We've had a lot of fun already this week. We talked to Daniel Flick from Indiana Hoosiers on SI. We kind of broke down a little bit of tape. We talked about really what Indiana is bringing into this matchup coming up today in the Rose Bowl. We'll see if Alabama can move on. But to do that and to have some help, we've got our friend Theo Fernandez. Follow him at Theo Fernandez __ on the Twitter machine. He's out in Pasadena. He's had a lot of fun, a huge 3 days out there handling a lot of media responsibilities. Theo Fernandez, good morning. How we doing, sir?
Hey, Joe, it is phenomenal. I'm still in awe at the fact that, I'm in Los Angeles. We are covering the biggest college football game in existence. It is just unreal. It's been a whirlwind of a week and one of the best professional experiences I've ever had. It's phenomenal here.
Absolutely. What was your favorite part about Media Day? Y'all put up 25 different individual player interviews. We put up 44 videos on the Bama Central YouTube channel that day. What was your favorite part about just having an open room and all kinds of guys to talk to?
Yeah, we haven't talked to any freshmen on the roster besides Lazier Brooks, which was right after Oklahoma. We haven't gotten to speak to any of these guys. So I know, Hunter went and talked with Keelan Russell. I talked to Jackson Lloyd, Michael Carroll, just these freshmen that we never get to hear from. I spent a minute with Luke Metz, Red Morgan, a guy we don't get a lot. It was just so cool with everybody being available, and you get all these opportunities. Caleb Edwards is a guy we got to speak with. It feels so different from any other media event that we've gotten, and it has been a blessing to get to speak to. AK Deer, there's another guy, right? We haven't heard from these guys forever. We don't know when the next time we'll get the chance to talk to them is. So it was just a phenomenal, the 45-minute timer went off and we could run wild. And I don't think I've ever had a faster 45 minutes. I remember at one point I checked the timer and it said 20 minutes left. And I was like, I feel like I've been here 10 minutes because you're just running from one player to the other, getting, spending 5 minutes with them. And it just flies by so fast. It was incredible.
We encourage everybody to check out all those videos on the Bama Central YouTube channel. Theo, Hunter, and Katie did such a great job. Theo, why don't we start with the voicemail line? We'll get Dax's prediction and his thoughts on this game right here to kind of lead us off. I know that he called actually, I believe, on Tuesday after Alabama's basketball game on Monday beating Yale. I think he wants to talk about this game. We'll use his voicemail. You can call it 205-462-7340 extension 800 to kind of spin our way into the Rose Bowl. We'll have some general thoughts, and then we'll do the traditional Friday segments on Thursday. We'll talk about our keys to the game, Alabama and Indiana at 3 o'clock. We'll talk about our keys to the game, our 3 players to watch, and we'll make our picks for the college football playoff. For those who are listening to this live on a Thursday, we're recording on Wednesday evening so that Theo and everybody can get to the stadium really, really expeditiously on Thursday. So we will pick the Miami game before it has kicked off. It kicks off here in about 35 minutes or so. We'll pick that game before that kicks off as well. So let's start on the voicemail line at 205-462-7340 extension 800. Here's Dax.
What's up, guys? It's Dax. Happy Football Wednesday. Starting off the show, I was at Yale last night, Monday night, and Noah Williams, in my opinion, did not play that bad. he was like, oh crap, Dax is in the building. I gotta show out. And he made a 3, and he didn't he didn't play like a baby giraffe. He played more like a teenage giraffe. So I appreciated that. Thank you, Noah Williamson. It felt really good to see our team do really good without LeBaron, London Jemison, and Davion Hannah. Mostly LeBaron. Aiden went off. Both Aidens. Well, Aiden Holloway more than Aiden Sherrill, but Sherrill still played pretty good. Yale didn't have the length to match up with us at all. It felt really good to blow out Auburn's daddy by 30 points. Not really, 102-78. Anyway, all right. Well, that's all. Moving on from basketball onto the official Indiana prediction. It's supposed to rain, which honestly I think that plays into our hands a little more than theirs. All of national media is like, I thought it was just the fans thinking we were going to get blown out, but there are some national sports pundits that think we're going to get blown out too, which makes absolutely zero sense to me. I think we're going to be able to handle Indiana's pass rush more than the teams that Indiana has played, because we went against Oklahoma's pass rush very well this last game. We handled Georgia's pass rush pretty well in the regular season. We're healthier than we've literally been all season. Ryan is starting to, I saw a couple practice videos. Ryan's actually like watching the ball into his hands when he's catching it. Of course, we've been seeing that all season, and when he gets into game time, he just had weird drops. But I mean, it's fine. Ryan's got next year too, but I mean, he's due. He is due for a big game. He is very, very due for a big game. This would be the one where we really, really need it. Then again, if it rains, I don't. Yeah. That means Daniel Hill and healthy 100% Jim Miller should have a day if our offensive line actually wants to get down and dirty and start run blocking. That would be really nice. But we got a healthy O-line now. Continuity is back. And we saw earlier in the season what O-line continuity can do for our run game. Makes it not an eyesore. I think we're going to limit Fernando Mendoza pretty well. I mean, against the 3 teams with a pulse that he's played this year, he threw for under 240 yards and pretty sure he had his 5 interceptions in those 3 games. I don't really know. I haven't watched Indiana football. So, all that being said, I think our offense is going to put up 23 points. Super weird number. 23. Indiana's going to put up 21. I think it is going to be an insanely close game. But we're going to come out on top. So, looks like we're going to the 3rd round of the playoffs, according to me. I mean, I've been homering out all year. I'm not Josh Pate, so I'm going to stick with Bama, obviously. So, 23-21. Roll Tide, boys.
23-21. Alabama handles Indiana's pass rush a little bit better and gets the running game going. Theo, what do you make of Dax's prediction?
Okay, first off, I've got to backtrack 1 second. Noah Williamson, his good game was 3 points on 1 of 3 shooting with 4 fouls in 11 minutes. Come on. Like, Noah Williamson, even when people... It was a fun thing that I saw on Twitter where people were like, oh, Noah Williamson played solid. He just didn't have any lowlights. That's the only reason we're talking about that. That was unfortunate, but Alabama-Yale was a fun game. Back to what Dax said, and one of what I think the biggest points of this game is, and something that I disagree with, that I've heard from Dax and that I've heard from other people surrounding this game. I don't see how this weather benefits Alabama. I've heard this take a couple times. Why would Alabama want to be in a position where throwing the ball is going to be even harder? If Alabama wins this football game, it is going to be because Ty Simpson can throw this football. Because Alabama has a productive day at the office when Ty's able to drop back and have a clean pocket, deliver a throw, and, put the receivers in good position to come down with the football, right? And we all know that rain and a wet football makes that exponentially more difficult. So now looking at the forecast, there's a very good shot that we have rain in the morning it's gonna be ugly this morning. Like that is basically inevitable, but we really could be in a position where we aren't dealing with that much rain during the day and it's just a kind of wet afternoon. Excuse me. It's hard to say how that's going to affect. It's hard to say what that'll do, but I think if I'm Alabama, I want the traditional, clean weather day. I know that Katie wrote about the rain this morning on Bama Central. DeBoer talked about it in the press conference, kind of saying that it's just all about adjustments, right? You're supposed to be a versatile team. You're supposed to be able to play through everything, but we want as little stuff falling during the game as possible for Alabama.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you. I think that people who are making takes about the rain are being mostly just hopeful about their own teams, whether it be the Indiana side or the Alabama side. I don't really think it gives a huge advantage to either side because I don't really think either of these quarterbacks have massive arms, but I don't think either of them have bad arms by any means. I think that Ty does have sometimes some accuracy issues.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that either quarterback having to throw into it, really what I think it would give the advantages to is to the offenses as a whole over the defenses. Whereas I think you've got two pretty strong defenses in this game. And so maybe that does give an advantage more to Indiana because I think that if you can diminish any of Alabama's defensive kind of maybe abilities, then that can open you up to score more points. I think really what you're looking at is making sure the cleats are all right. Wear the right spikes. You're slipping and sliding around. Wear the right spikes. Alabama, if you're playing a lot of man coverage, are you going to slip and fall off a guy? And is Mendoza going to deliver a football? Maybe it does give Indiana more of an advantage. I look, you're not going to really looking to run the ball a whole lot anyways. I think you'll probably be looking for 75, 85 rushing yards. If you can get over that, if you can get to the 130s, I think Alabama's high because Power 4 was Auburn 143, 146. If you can get to 120 on the ground, then whether it's raining or not, I think you're feeling really, really good about it. I think that this is going to be a really, really tough game for both sides. I'm having a really hard time deciding how I think it's going to go, Theo, because I'm having a really hard time measuring Indiana's just ability to execute at such a high level and how balanced they are on offense. Because I think they're really, really balanced. I don't think they're exceptional throwing the football, but I don't think that they're exceptional being A plus, but I don't think they're B plus at throwing the football. I think they're right at A minus, and then running the ball, I think they're right at A minus right there as well. I don't think they're the greatest rushing team ever. I think their offensive line is pretty talented, pretty strong. I think you've got a little bit of a weakness right at right tackle, just a little bit, but not much.
Let's ignore they are big, the O-line. Yeah. Average weight 320 pounds. They're a big unit.
So I think they're a nice B plus, A minus offensive line, and what they do offensively is just be really, really balanced. And sometimes we'll throw it deep, sometimes we'll throw it short. We'll mix in the screen game. We'll run with inside zone. We'll have all kinds of different runs, really. And so really, I think that their offense coordinator Shanahan is really, really good at just keeping their offense one step ahead of the opposing defense. And so I don't know if I think rain is really going to be that much of a factor in either way, but it does, to your point, look like the forecast is clearing up for game time. It looks like y'all are going to be getting over there in the rain. Make sure you take your rain jacket tomorrow. But I'm still like Dax. I like his score 23-21. I just am still wondering about which way I'm going to go, if I think I'm going to make Indiana or Alabama, because I think Indiana's offense is just so balanced that if Kane gives up, if Kane makes a move, can Fernando Mendoza and can Shanahan counter and start attacking a different area of the defense? I think their running backs are really, really strong. I mean, they're the number one team in the country, Theo. How do you feel about this game as a whole, about Alabama's chances to win?
It's going to be such a chess match between Shanahan and Womack. These are two phenomenal coaches. These are two guys who are great at adjusting mid-game. We've talked about Womack and his ability to do that, and we've talked so much about just how great this defense has been at times for Alabama. So you got the first thing, and this is something that you knew was going to be said at some point today, when a lot of it comes down to who's going to make the mistake, right? Oklahoma made the mistakes last week. You had the dropped punt, you had the pick six, which was more so just a great defensive play, great ability to bait, and Mateer getting a little lost in things. But, one of the things with the rain is like, what happens when, Hardy or Isaiah Jones, gets free, blindside hit on Ty Simpson in the rain? Can he hang on to the football? Like, that's a problem that Ty's had, getting hit in the pocket. Someone's going to make a mistake that's going to swing the game, I believe. That's one of the things that I feel strongly about. Alabama played a clean game last week, right? You avoided that mistake. Against Georgia, you got a punt blocked. That sets the dogs up in the red zone, right? There's a pretty sharp contrast, and I just think that this game is evenly matched enough where if you have that happen today or tomorrow, I guess today if we're recording, you probably won't be able to overcome. You have to be clean. You have to be technically sound. I do think the coaching matchup is fascinating, though, right? One of the things that Coach Cignetti talked about was how he made sure to keep the focus for Indiana away from Alabama or Oklahoma the first week, right? So the whole time in the lead up to December 20th, Indiana's just practicing, normally prepping, almost like the summer, right, where you're just preparing your football team, keeping them sharp. And now they've had the whole last week to get ready for Alabama. I know they've relied heavily on, not heavily, but they've watched a good amount of the Wisconsin tape, is something that was talked about. Mendoza analyzing how Ty, or not Mendoza, but the team analyzing how Ty played against the Badgers defense. That's a common opponent. As a whole, I feel like this game will be close. However, I do think that there is the potential for Alabama to come out ugly. You look at that Georgia game, right, where it just felt like Alabama had no shot from the jump, right, from Georgia blocking that punt. It just felt like it was their day. I could see this game unfolding that way. I really could. I don't think it will. I think we're going to have a very close football game, but I could see a world where things just unravel quickly, where, I don't know, Ty loses a ball in the backfield, where you have a special teams mistake, because this is a team that's been so prone to them, right? You allow a huge return, you have a punt blocked, all these different things that have plagued the Crimson Tide all year. I could really see them coming back to bite Alabama, and the Crimson Tide just taking a shot early and not being able to overcome it. I hope we get a great football game, though, and I know that this unit is good enough to win this football game, right? We've seen so many positive things from Alabama all year. One of the other matchups, as we're talking about the game as a whole, not to ramble on for too long, but Indiana's cornerbacks are small. They're very talented. They did a great job on Tate and Jeremiah Smith in the Big Ten championship, but they are small. You have Horton, who should have a great day, and Derek Meadows was moving very well. As I wonder if you can get him involved in the game. 6'5", 215 pounds. He has not been the same. He really hasn't had any kind of role since taking that hit against Missouri. And I don't know. I haven't seen him run really at all since then, but he looks like he's moving just fine. So you wonder, you got to use some of those big targets against this Indiana team. Cuevas should play a massive role in the game plan. I think he should compile a bunch of receptions now that he's fully healthy. And, he just plays such a key role when you know that you don't know what you're going to get out of the running game, and the short passing game could be a lifeline. So there's so many things to monitor. I'll let you take this in whatever direction you want now, Joe.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really challenging game. I got one more question, just kind of around the game, and then we'll get into our keys to the matchup today at the coaches conference, last press conference. Wednesday at the coaches' last press conference before the game. Kurt Cignetti was going on and on and on about the prep work and about prep being delayed and prep being disrupted by the travel and prep being disrupted by the moment and just kind of the obligations of the Rose Bowl. What did you make of that, and what do you make of rest versus rust as far as Alabama is well rested? We've seen the injury report. It's pretty light. Alabama getting really, really favorable news on the injury report with just Jeremiah Beaman, Dre Kirkpatrick Jr., and Jamarian Latham all being listed as out. We've known that those have been three long term kind of issues. Everybody else clear, and so Alabama, you played 10 days ago, roughly or so. Indiana, you haven't played in 26 days. What do you make about the rest versus rust, and what do you make of Kirk Cignetti's really kind of, I don't want to say excuses, but just kind of annoyance at the schedule and annoyance at the delays and annoyance at the obligations that the Rose Bowl has required of his team?
I think from a pure football standpoint, you're in the right to be frustrated with the process, right? It is a little unusual in my mind that we're changing up the process so much in the biggest game of the year. I do also believe that, well, first of all, I believe it should be a 14 playoff. That's not a conversation we have right now, but I do believe that the quarterfinals should be played on campus, right? Indiana, you had a great season in the 1 seed. You should be hosting this game. We should be in the Hoosier State right now. With that being said, this is the format. This is how it is. So if you cannot use any of this as an excuse. A good coach is going to prepare his team no matter what the situation is. And Kalen DeBoer is the exact same situation, right? Sure, Indiana had a longer rest. We talked about that last week, how I do think the rust will affect these teams in some ways. I mean, we're about to see it in Ohio State, Miami kicking off in a few minutes, right? But there's no excuse. This is postseason. This is the highest level of football. You're in the same position as your opponent, and I just don't think you have any right to use any of this as an excuse, even though I do understand why there is the frustration.
Yeah, I don't know what really to make of it, but I do think that it's something notable as we're right here on game day. If Indiana looks a little slow coming out or sluggish coming out, if that's part of it, you've seen them be so well coached all season long that it's hard to even kind of fathom how they might mess some things up today in the Rose Bowl.
And Cignetti did talk multiple times about how he thought the practice that they had yesterday, or I guess on Tuesday for context, he said it just was not up to their standards. And he said that he felt so much pressure on this Wednesday practice and preparation to go right because, it did not go well. And, that was a pretty revealing thing that he said. It was probably the most substance of anything that was said in what was pretty much a joke of a press conference, if we're being real.
That's
the biggest headline. Yeah, the press conference was ridiculous.
They'd already talked for so much. It's silly to make them do it again on Wednesday morning. Let's get right into our keys to the game here. Before we do, we want to remind you that at Purple Turtle Roofing, we're not just another contractor. We're your neighbor and your advocate when it comes to protecting your home or business. With years of hands-on experience, top-tier certification, and a commitment to excellence, we've built a reputation as Alabama's go-to roofing solution. Call Purple Turtle Roofing today at 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection today. We specialize in residential roofing, commercial roofing, emergency storm repairs, full-on roof replacement, insurance claims support, and more. Once again, call them at 877-787-6635 for your free roof inspection. Purple Turtle Roofing. All right, Theo, you're going to be out there covering it for BamaCentral.com. Follow him at Theo Fernandez _. What are your keys for Alabama in the Rose Bowl?
Well, the first one, which I talked about earlier, because I think it really is the most important thing, don't make the dumb mistake. Don't get the punt blocked. Don't, lose the ball in the backfield on strip sack. It's just, and so much of that comes down to luck, right? But just get your, we've had shuffling on the punt, blocking assignments that have led to confusion. Like, just get it straight. You're in the postseason. You have no excuse to be making these kind of mistakes because that could swing the game and end your season. You saw it a week ago with Oklahoma, where without those Oklahoma mistakes, Alabama is watching this game from the couch. You can't afford that. There's no room for it, and there certainly is no room for it against the Indiana team that's been so smooth all year. Number two is going to come down to the running backs. It's going to be pass protection and ability to just hit those blocks and set up Alabama with reasonable down and distances. I'll talk more about this when we get to our key players, because one of my key players ties into that. But we've gone on ad nauseum about just what a struggle the run game has been this year. Part of that going down to the interior offensive line. Part of that coming down to the backs themselves, who I don't quite think are up to the standard Alabama's used to. You need to give Ty Simpson 2nd and 6 instead of 2nd and 9. You need to be able to set him up with, a 3rd and 2 instead of a 3rd and 5. Like, it is just so much of it comes down to, in what I think will be a low-scoring game, which we'll talk about more in a minute, so much of it comes down to, can you put together solid drives, right? And if you can't run the football, if this run game looks the way it has earlier in the year, and for so much this season, I don't feel all that confident in this team's ability to win the football game. And my third is going to be to challenge Mendoza throughout the game to make tough plays. You look at Fernando Mendoza this season, and a lot's been made about his stats and how so many of his touchdowns and big, games came against the lesser teams on the schedule, right? Against I don't know the exact stat off the top of my mind, but against a certain group of the good opponents, he only has something like 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, all right? This is a guy who has been somewhat, game manager is a strong word to use, so I'm not going to go that much, but somewhat of a game manager in some of these big games. Now, with that being said, time and time again, when he needs to make big plays, when he needs to put together that drive late, he's done it. So my question, though, comes down to, can you force him to make challenging plays throughout? Mendoza's able to just sit back and, rely on a couple 5-yard runs to set up 2nd and 5 all the time, and I'm able to have time in the pocket. I'm able to make easy throws, and that'll just set Indiana up so well, because so much of what Mendoza has done this year has been easy. Not that he's not a great QB, because he is. He is as described. He's a very good QB. But he just has not been challenged all that much this year. And I think Alabama has the facilities, pass rush-wise, to do it, right? We saw Keon Keeley have the great game. We know that Rousseau and Pierre are incredibly talented. I'll talk more about this in my key players, but I just think that if you can put pressure on Mendoza, if you can do creative things, schematically, as far as, stunts, as far as, giving him different looks that he hasn't seen, I think you can bait him into making some bad throws. I think you can really make his day challenging and prevent Indiana's offense from doing what it's done in some of these games where they just run away with the game.
Yeah, I think you hit all over it, Theo, basically by, with your make them make the mistake, get the running game going just enough, and pressure Fernando Mendoza. I think all 3 of those are reading right from my top, honestly, my top 3 for me as well. I'll pivot and I'll go to Ty Simpson. I think Ty Simpson, you've got to live in kind of the danger zone where you've got to anticipate things, Ty. You've got to rip it like you did the second part of the Oklahoma game, as you did really the second through fifth or sixth week or so of the season, when you were not playing so careful, when you were not playing to, I don't need to make a mistake, when you were just see man throw the ball. I think he was at his best, really, when he was just playing the game and not thinking too much. And I know that he really likes to get Alabama, tries to get Alabama into good plays before the snap, and I think it's one of his strengths. I do. But I do also think that sometimes makes him think too much. And I wish that, he would try to find the balance between thinking too much and just playing. Because I think when he does strike that balance of, hey, I know what they're doing, I'm just going to rely on my instincts. I know what we're doing. I'm just going to read the play and play football. I think when he is kind of in that balance, he is still a really, really dangerous quarterback. So to me, you got to have Ty Simpson ripping it at the Rose Bowl on Thursday. So that's number one for me. I love your creative takeaway, and I love your get after it. Put some pressure on Fernando Mendoza. But since you already said that, I'm going to go a little more umbrella and just say make Mendoza have to throw in tight windows. When you play man coverage, when you are blitzing, you got to stick with your man. You got to make Mendoza maybe second guess himself just a little bit. I don't think he's done that too much. I don't think he's had to do that a little too much. I think he's been able to sit in the pocket, wait for a guy, or wait for reads, or wait for patterns to kind of break free and then deliver the football. I think if you can cover on the back end really, really well and be really, really aggressive, then maybe you do buy an extra time. Buy a little bit of extra time for the rush to get back there to Fernando Mendoza. So for me, I guess number one, let Ty Simpson rip it. Number two, you've got to cover well on the back end. And number three, you already talked about running the football. I think that's going to be so huge because I think you need to do it just enough. So for me, number three, I'll go to special teams. You got to keep getting the right Connor Talty. You can't let a punt get blocked. You've got to cover punts. You've got to cover kicks at a very efficient rate. So I think that stealing from Miss Katie Wyndham, you've got to avoid a special teams blunder. Play at least baseline on special teams because, look, if you give them easy field position, they'll cash in. Their field goal kicker is really, really good as well. I think he'll miss his only kick of the year in the Big Ten championship game. So it's going to be a dogfight, and I think that if you're able to do these things, let Ty Simpson, if Ty just is able to live in the moment and play football, then I think he'll be effective enough. They're going to play a lot of zone coverage. Ty just dissect the zone, read the zone, deliver the football. Let the play shoot. I guess the other end of that, the wide receivers have to try to avoid some of the drops, have to actually bring the ball in. But then you've got to cover really well on the back end defensively, and you got to play really well on special teams. Let's keep rolling here on the Joe Gaither Show on a Thursday edition. We're talking about the Rose Bowl, and we're about to get into three players to watch. But before we do, we want to let you know the program is brought to you by Derek Daniel State Farm Insurance. Call him at 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs. Like a good neighbor, Derek Daniel is there. All right, Theo, you said you want me to go ahead and make my three players to watch. Okay, so yesterday we had Daniel Flick join the program, and he picked for the Indiana Elijah Surratt, wide receiver Elijah Surratt, edge rusher Mikhail Kamara, and cornerback 2 Jamari Sharp, not Pons, but Jamari Sharp, not D'Angelo Pons, but Jamari Sharp, because he thought Pons is gonna do his thing. Can Jamari Sharp hold down whoever the second wide receiver is for Alabama? So for me, my three players to watch. Ooh, really, really tough calls here. Really, really tough calls. I'm gonna go with Yanzi Pierre, number one. Because I think that you might have some issues on Indiana's right tackle, and if you're able to get some pass rush to Theo's point in keys, then you're going to help the defense a lot. I think Yanzi Pierre has to have a really, really big game in this game. I think that I'm going to go Deontay Lawson, number 2, because of how balanced Indiana is. and they are really, really balanced. He's going to have to read his keys and be in the right positions all night long. Otherwise, Indiana's going to manipulate him and move him and play action pass, throw a ball in over his head. And I think he's going to get some pass rushing opportunities as well. So Deontay Lawson, Deontay's been huge for this defense, coming up with a key takeaway in key times. Think back to the South Carolina game, getting a takeaway. He fell on the Auburn fumble as well. So really, really getting after it defensively. So I'll go Yhonzae Pierre 1. I'll go Deontay Lawson 2. And number 3, to flip to the offensive side, I'm going to go with – you know what? I'll go with Coach DeBoer. Coach DeBoer said Ryan Williams was due for a big game and thinks that he's got a big game in him, believes in him. I'm going to go with Ryan Williams as well because of really what Daniel Flick was talking about with us yesterday about D'Angelo Pons covering probably Jeremy Bernard. It's going to be a tough cover to get him on Isaiah Horton. But I think Ryan Williams, whoever's playing that number 2, and in this case, I'll take Ryan Williams, will have an opportunity to have a big game. So my 3 players to watch for the Crimson Tide are going to be Yhonzae Pierre, Deontay Lawson, and Ryan Williams.
I like all those picks, Joe. I'm going to start with Tim Keenan for the same reason you picked Yhonzae Pierre, right? We know Yhonzae can be such an explosive player. We know that there is a flaw on the right side of that line that can be exposed. Tim Keenan has to step up and ensure that they get as little help on that right side as possible, right? You need to really just be – Tim Keenan's got to be a black hole, right? He's got to absorb guys in. He's got to draw double teams. He's got to really generate pressure up in the middle to really spread out the rest of that line and allow Yhonzae or Keeley or Russo or whoever it's going to be. And I think Yhonzae's a great choice for that. He's got to make their life easy, right? He's got to give them one-on-ones. I think that Tim Keenan is a capable football player. I think he's been a little underwhelming at times, but I think at the end of the day, this is a big guy. This is somebody who's experienced, who's a leader. It's your time to shine, Tim Keenan. So he's, I think, one of the most important parts of this game for Alabama. Number 2, I'm going to go Dijon Lee. You're here in your hometown, going up against a great receiver in Surratt. I believe it will be Lee matched up with him because of the size, right? Surratt, I think, is 6'2", 6'3". DJ Lee is the bigger guy than Xavier, right? Probably the guy who would match up against him. And hey, Xavier could just as easily be the option, right? Because these are 2 talented cornerbacks playing in their hometown, right? Even Damani Jackson, and choosing DJ as the player, but I think all 3 should be talked about as 2 of them went to high school in this city and the other played college football in this city. It's a pretty big homecoming for these guys. So I just think that Dijon Lee is a really, really tough task ahead of him, a really big one. And all it takes is getting beat one time. And all of a sudden, Mendoza has Surratt on a deep touchdown that can swing the game, right? You have to be on top of things. There's going to be nothing easy against this guy. He's a very good receiver, and freshman has to step up in the Rose Bowl in his hometown. That's a phenomenal storyline, and I'm excited to watch that matchup. I'm split on this third one. There's so many guys that we could highlight. We've talked about Horton so much and the fact that here you are, such a big target on a team that struggled to stop bigger guys. I think that Horton should be due for, red zone touches, right? As long as Alabama can get to that point. But I am going to go with Cuevas, who we talked about earlier. Another guy, making a homecoming. I just think, he's been such a key player for this team. He's had some really big performances for Alabama, and that short passing game is going to be essential. Not to extend this segment too much, but Caleb Edwards is also a guy playing in his home state who is a big target, who can move well, who we've seen some stuff drawn up for him down the stretch in the season. Look, he has 11 receptions on the year, but he's caught passes in 8 different games, right? He's done something most of the time for Alabama. So I'd watch for him to maybe, send him deep, make, a linebacker try to stop him, or make them put one of their bigger cornerbacks on him and just see what that does, even if it just opens up another receiver to get something done. I think Caleb Edwards can provide some pressure. I think I'm expecting big things from both these tight ends.
So it's going to be a huge, huge game. You can find it 3 o'clock on ESPN on ABC. You can also find it on BamaCentral.com. Follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _. He's going to be tweeting from the ball game, and one of y'all is going to be doing live updates. I bet you it's probably going to be you, Theo, doing live updates in the Rose Bowl. So make sure you follow the whole crew, Katie Wyndham _, and Hunter DeCyber as well. Theo, let's get right into the picks, man. 4 picks. We'll make it nice and easy tonight. This morning, excuse me. We'll make it nice and easy as we'll start with Miami's big game. Miami is taking on the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's going to be on Wednesday night. So by the time the episode airs, it's going to be already out there. What do you think? Miami is a 7.5-point underdog.
Yeah, and I think that's for a reason. And hey, I could look like an idiot when this comes down if Miami competes in this game, but I don't think they will. I like Ohio State by 20 points in this one. I think this Buckeyes team is phenomenal. I think they'll be motivated after the Indiana loss. I think Ryan Day, I trust that he took this time to really get them right. I was thoroughly unimpressed by Miami against A&M. I think that, look, a potential Carson Beck Georgia game in the semifinal would be one of the most fun storylines we'd ever gotten. I don't think it'll come to fruition. I would love to be proved wrong. I'd love to see a fun game here. I don't think we'll get it.
Yeah, I'm with you that Ohio State will win. I'm going to take Ohio State to win, but Miami to cover the plus 7.5. I think it's going to be a close game. Let's keep rolling on Thursday morning. You've got 11 a.m. Oregon and Texas Tech. Oregon is a 2.5-point favorite down there at the Orange Bowl in Miami. How do you see Dan Lanning and the Ducks taking on Texas Tech?
This Texas Tech team is so good at forcing turnovers. They are a great unit, right? Like, it is a fun team. It's a cool story. I worry about the rust. And I worry more so when you have a team that's less experienced and also that is in a matchup that I believe is very even. And I do believe this is a very, very even matchup on paper. In a neutral site, in a place where neither team will have many fans. I don't know if you've seen, Joe, the tickets are under $30 for this game, which is sad. Again, why we should be playing this on campus. That's besides the point. I think that if Dante Moore can just play a smart football game, Oregon will win this game relatively comfortably. I'm going to go maybe 2-score Oregon victory. I would love to be wrong. I think Texas Tech is a cool story. And, I would love to see them go on a run, but I believe it will be Oregon in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to take Oregon as well. I think it's actually not going to be as close. I think I'm going to take Oregon by 10 because I think that I don't think that Texas Tech has seen an offense as good as Oregon's all season long. And while Texas Tech has a really great defense, I think they've maybe made some of their headway off some less than stellar Big 12 offenses, and without really seeing a real solid quarterback all season long. Last game outside of the Alabama game is at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Ole Miss is taking on Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. Georgia is a 6.5-point favorite.
This one is hard to see Ole Miss winning. Look, Georgia is just such a well-oiled machine right now. I mean, they're a phenomenal football team. They've beaten Ole Miss already. And what is this Ole Miss team going to look like without Lane Kiffin? Because the Tulane game just doesn't tell us anything, if we're being real. Now, yeah, I mean, you played just about as good without Lane as you did with him. And I don't know how much it affects this team, but I think even if there's no negative effect on losing your coach, Georgia's just too good of a football team. I'll take Georgia by 2 scores.
Yeah, I think Georgia's playing really dominant right now. I would take Georgia by the 6.5. I'm not going to go to 2 scores, but I do think that they're going to win by 7 to 9 is kind of in my range. All right, last game. It's us at 3 o'clock on ESPN. Alabama is taking on Indiana in the Rose Bowl. Indiana is a 7-point favorite, Theo.
Well, Joe, if you guys have been keeping score, I do not have a single one-score game out of the first three in the second round. I think this game will change it. I think that these are two pretty evenly matched football teams. Look, Kalen DeBoer addressed it earlier in the press conference. Indiana has a 0 next to them in the record, and that means something. That means that you can say whatever you want about their schedule, about who they've faced, although we have no way to say anything negative about the Big Ten with the way they've owned the SEC and bowl games, with Texas being the one exception, right, over Michigan so far. I think this is a very even matchup. I'm going to go 2017. Alabama wins the football game on a late Connor Talty field goal.
Oh, how dramatic would that be?
Talked so much about him. He's turned a corner. Katie wrote a nice piece about him. Having gotten to speak to him, and I think gave a lot of people new perspective on him. Like, this is a guy who's been reliable lately, and what a turn! That would be just a phenomenal story, right? If he sends Alabama to the next round. But no, I think this will be an ugly offensive game at times. I think that some offenses will struggle. Offenses will both struggle on many drives, a lot of 3-and-outs, a lot of trading punts, but I think both will do enough to have this very close game going down to the wire. We've seen both QBs lead game-winning drives, right? Have a lot of success late, so I think it's Alabama's day to make it happen and punch a ticket to the semifinal.
Oh, man, I guess it's now time for my business in. I think I'm going to follow Dax, and I think I'm going to follow him to a T, 23-21. Dax has been all over it most of the year. I still don't feel very confident in either way. I don't feel confident. Like, all this Indiana's going to blow out Alabama, that would shock me. That would legitimately shock me. But I do think, look, if Alabama, if you fall into a 17-0 hole, Indiana's not going to let you out of it. So you better be on your game from the jump. You better be ready to play from the start. I think that's a huge thing for Alabama. It's starting early and starting fast. But I think I'm going to follow Dax to a T at 23-21 Alabama. I think that this Indiana team is really, really good, and they're going to play Alabama really tough, and it's going to be one of these games where Theo, you, Hunter, and Katie, y'all are going to look at each other at the end going, whew, what did we just watch? What a great game. I think it's going to be two teams just standing in the middle of the ring, trading haymakers and trying to crack the game open. And you know, Kalen DeBoer with extra time. Just betting on Coach DeBoer with extra time is kind of why I am leaning Alabama. I'm going to go 23-21, just like our man Dax. And we'll see in the Peach Bowl against the winner of Oregon, Texas Tech. I guess Theo and I both took Oregon, so that would be a hell of a semifinal matchup right there in Atlanta in about a week and change. Theo, anything else you got for the people before we say goodbye?
No, man, just everyone plug into Bama Central. Follow the Twitter. We'll be getting out as much content as we can. And hey, this is just the granddaddy of them all. It is just such a cool game, and we're so blessed, right, that Alabama gets to play in this game twice in 3 seasons. Like, this is special. It really is. It's not something that most programs will ever see happen, and I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve, right? You know, just looking forward to being in that stadium tomorrow, and can't wait. Hope everyone has a great time watching the game. If you guys follow our content, and man, what a way to start the new year.
There we go. So follow Theo Fernandez at Theo Fernandez _ as he takes you all over the Rose Bowl today. So Theo, thanks so much for your time. We'll be back on Friday to break down the win or the loss right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.